Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Martin Falopino, but on YouTube, I'm known as Dr. Debunk. Dr. Debunk debunks medical myths, garbage, and crap spread by doctors and other health professionals. I'm here to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, if the truth can be known, on medical subjects and other matters related to health. So we're going to be talking about COVID again on this video. COVID-19, the evil Martian flesh-eating virus that's going to eat all our brains out. Comedy. Anyway, two things we're going to talk about today: what other countries have done regarding the COVID issue, and then also lockdown, what I think about lockdown and where that's all going. So let's start with other countries. So, everyone thinks that all the modern countries of the world did the same thing, but that's not really true. There's been some notable exceptions, and now that some time has gone by, we can see the most amazing exception country called Taiwan, which did not lock down virtually at all. And we'll come back to that. But the list of countries that didn't do what everybody else did, I mean Europe, America, Canada, is Taiwan, Japan, the city of Singapore, which is almost big enough to be its own country, Sweden, of all places, South Korea. These countries are interesting because they didn't lock down initially like the United States did. Now, it's changed since then. You can get some bad information out there saying that, well, none of these countries closed their schools or their businesses, but that's not true. They didn't at first. But right now, as of to date, Taiwan hasn't closed anything. But funny to me, and I haven't been able to dig into it, but I will and give you an update next time, is Sweden. What a funny thing. Sweden is socialistic, extreme, control like Europe. And I understand the rest of the European nations were mad at them because they basically said, we're not locking down anything. And the Swiss are doing fine, as far as I understand, the little data I've gotten. But what was interesting is South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. Why those countries? Because they're very much like the United States. They're democracies. They're younger democracies, but Japan, especially at first, didn't lock everything down, just took the extreme measures, social distancing, which we know, well, they know more than we seem to have known, that that's the number one thing, the social distancing. But then as time went on, Japan was doing very well till I think mid-February. And then they decided to go extreme, lock down the schools, shut down all the public businesses, the restaurants and things like that, as much as they can. I mean, there's only a certain percentage of success rate. I live in a rural area, and some of the restaurants are not closed. You can go through the back door and still go to restaurants. But anyway, which is probably okay if you take the right measures. Anyway, we'll get to lockdown in a minute. And then South Korea also took steps and then went more extreme. But what's interesting, what I really wanted to mention, is Taiwan. So Taiwan, for those of you that have no idea, is an island country. Their country is about as big as a small state. It's 50 by 100 miles long. The island's 50 miles wide, 100 miles long, and I don't know, 24 million people live there. But, they became a thriving democracy after World War II, and they've never looked back. I would estimate Taiwan, giving you a little background here, is kind of like America in the 1950s or 60s. It's really, truly an amazing country with amazing people. And if you don't figure this out yet, they make great stuff. If you want to buy really great stuff, you can buy it from Taiwan. For what you get for the money, it's great. And I'm not being paid by the Taiwanese government. But anyway, it's just my personal preference. Anyway, the point is, this is what the Taiwanese did. They kept their schools open. They've kept their businesses open. But they did extreme, enforcement, and not by policing people, but making sure they got the information. They have this whole technology thing where they send out alerts. They're quarantining people that were obviously exposed, and then they're sending out alerts. If you're on their system, you would get an alert on your cell phone that your next door neighbor has been quarantined. So you could know that, okay, I better not go see Joe because he's, an infectious monkey carrier of COVID-19. Anyway, but what they did in their restaurants is interesting because they have these kind of like they don't have as much space as we do. So you go to a restaurant and you'd sit at a table where there's 8 people. So they just have these little dividers, these little plexiglass dividers. And they did the same thing in the schools. The kids are still in the schools, but they eat lunch with a divider up, and then the rest of the time they keep their mask on. So they're big on masks, big on social distancing, and a number of other things like this. And guess what? As of a week ago, they've had 5 deaths. I'm not exact on the number. It's 3 to 5. And like 500 people infected. Of a country of 24 million? How did they do that? Well, for one, they were aware of it more before we were. Because, China is not their friend. If you don't know the politics, the Chinese communists believe that Taiwan is a part of their country. And they continue to position themselves to take it back. The Taiwanese people want nothing to do with that. And that's another story. But anyway, they became aware of it and incorporated these measures quickly. And so they, have not locked down. And so it's very interesting what's going to happen over there. And I'll continue to follow that, And that's leading into, well, the conclusion is, I don't think we had to lock down like this. I think that the government missed the boat a little bit. Now, we're not going to know for sure until 3 years from now. This is just my opinion. See, there's no science in the U.S. The last time we had something like this? 1918. The Spanish flu, the big epidemic that killed 500,000 Americans and 75 to 100 million people worldwide. And that was the influenza virus. I forget which one it was, but but they didn't even know. Back then in 1918, we knew there was some small little germ, smaller than bacteria, but they didn't know what viruses were. But I think we forgot in America that social distancing is the issue, and it's really strange to me. I mean, these government hoo-hoos. Why the information that the president and the team has been given, the COVID team? I'm more and more perplexed about what they did. And it seemed like a good plan. The whole goal was to protect the seniors, but it's not happening. And we'll get to that in a second. So it's very interesting. We have information that, lockdown to this degree wasn't necessary and may not have been as effective as we think. And see, this is out there, The Canadians learned the hard way from the 2000 SARS epidemic. So did the South Koreans. They had some problems. South Koreans had a big problem with SARS-1. That's the same virus, only in 2000. This one's a little different. And we had all that information. We had all that data. And yet they took these draconian measures, in my opinion. So as you can tell, I'm not pro-lockdown. So they've locked down the country. And the question now becomes, when is it going to end? When are they going to open the schools again, businesses, restaurants? When are we going to be able to go out and eat? It's all over the place. It's up in the air. I live in California, and I think our governor is certifiable. The man says the craziest things. It's nonsensical. And you can say what you want, that's a biased statement. It's on record what this governor has done. I'm sorry, when they first started, you can go look this up. I have it. I kept it. When they first went from, the mild restrictions, and then they said you can't gather more than 50 people, and then they went down to 10. When they were down, I believe, at 10 people, no gatherings over 10 people, this went out, a government order, we're supposed to follow it, blah, 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 be good little citizens. Well, this order at the very bottom, in writing, has the exemptions. And you know what was exempt? Theme parks, movie theaters, and casinos. So I couldn't meet with 10 of my friends, but I could go to a theme park? I could go to casinos? Are you crazy? Are you totally out of your mind? One drunk person playing slot machines who's infected could infect 100 people in 3 hours in a casino. It's psycho, but that was okay with our governor. And he's made endless statements. So we'll come back to that, but I have some real issues with that. But the lockdown, at this point, I don't understand. I thought a few weeks ago they were going to start to back down. I don't understand what the president's doing. I don't understand what the medical community is saying. There's so many contradictory terms here. But it's clear from what I just shared with you, like Taiwan especially, that, Taiwan is similar to us, like I had mentioned. We need to end this lockdown. It needs to be phased back to whatever degree, but everyone knows now about social distancing. And the morons that are not going to obey it, like they are already, there's a lot of hypocrisy here, I mean, Walmart is an American icon. I don't shop there that much, but I've been going in there on purpose every week. And it's nuts. Why is it okay to close all these businesses, small businesses, beauty salons, whatever, all these people that have independent business owners, they get all put out of business, but Walmart and Lowe's get to pack people in like ants, which they've been doing to this date. You go into Walmart, and once you get by the way they make you come in and out, it's pandemonium. There's people packed in. Nobody's paying attention to social distancing. I'm telling my senior patients, you get mad. You tell people to get back. You're standing there and someone will walk and almost hit you trying to grab something off the aisle. It's psycho. And there's no one in the store that works there that's saying anything. That's not okay. All these big stores that are still open should be having distance police. If you're going to do something, you should have people telling them, hey, back up, don't go down an aisle. It doesn't have to be mean or rude, but none of that's going on. So you tell me how that's okay. All these small businesses are getting killed, going out of business, and that's okay to do, but it's okay to let these big places open? And when, everyone I know in California, we're waiting to hear when this nutty governor of ours tells big theme parks it's okay to reopen. But he's already said, he's not going to let churches get together for a long time. Really? I would bet $1 million he's going to say it's okay for theme parks to open before a church, even if 20 people can open. So there's a lot of stuff going on here with this lockdown that's not medically right. It doesn't follow the guidelines at all. And so I think we may have to do something, we the people. We may have to stand up and do something, because with the evidence of the other countries, Japan, Taiwan, as I've just mentioned, we can relax the restrictions safely. Movie theaters, I don't know. Do you make people sit every fourth seat? There's a lot of questions, but it needs to be done, because if people keep staying out of work, and what are the schools going to do? If we don't start backing off now, how will we know what's going to happen? And already, like, one thing our great governor has proposed, well, this is one possibility according to him. We can put children in school every other day. Take half the kids and make them go to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday one week, and then they would do Tuesday, Thursday the next, and then the other half would do the reverse. Oh, that's great. What about the parents? How can they work? It's nuts. It's completely nuts. You can't do that. You can't have parents get random child care, and then who are you going to have to do it? So there's great concern. And the final little tidbit that I'm going to put into here that's make me, even though I am very conservative, I may sound that way, I am becoming very disillusioned with our president, because I don't know, there's no way I can see he would have done this, but I think he's gotten bad information. I think, Mr. President, if you ever to watch this, you need to fire everybody, because this, the point of all of this lockdown was what? What was the point? To save the lives of people over 70, of American citizens over 70, save their lives. Because it seemed obvious from the get-go that this whole virus is much more infectious than influenza. It goes from an upper respiratory infection to pneumonia very rapidly, and people over 70 are very susceptible to going through the process of basically dying from heart failure or lung failure. So if that's who we're trying to protect, why didn't the nursing homes and the assisted livings and then the retirement communities, why were they not locked down aggressively from the beginning? They weren't. Everything I'm seeing and hearing is that the virus has gotten into the nursing homes and it's getting worse. and there's no way to stop it. Where can you put all these people? How do you separate them? You can't. You can't. Like here where I live, there's a facility here that handles people that have been, they're wards of the state and they're dramatically handicapped or on ventilators. And this facility has been there a long time, and the National Guard went in there to set up tents because they were going to take care of all these overflow people that were going to get so sick if we didn't lock down. Well, I have patients that work there. You know how many people they have in the temporary facilities for this massive overflow of the hospitals? 0. There's nobody there. The main hospital where I live here, I have a bunch of nurses that work there. A ER nurse just told me yesterday, they're bored out of their minds. Nobody wants to go to the hospital. The census in the hospital is cut in half. They're only seeing half the amount of normal ER patients because nobody wants to go to the hospital because they think they're going to get COVID. So there's a lot of issues, but the big concern I'm having now is what's going to happen in the end with the nursing homes? Is it still going to be 200,000 to 300,000 Americans are going to die anyway? So why did we lock down? Why didn't these facilities get warned? And why didn't the government step in there with aggressive lockdown? It doesn't seem to have happened. So this movie isn't over, but at this point, this whole lockdown thing is not the answer. We need to back off, get the country going again. The government needs to focus in on the skilled nursing facilities, on the assisted living, and on these retirement communities, because that's the people that need to be protected. And so far, it doesn't look good. So anyway, that's it for today. The last little thing I'll mention is that as Dr. Debunk, my goal is to get Americans and my patients the best information to stay optimally healthy at all decades of life. And so I want to give a little bit of positive stuff here because that wasn't a very happy video. And that is, what do Americans need to do to stay optimally healthy at all decades of life so that you never get disease and you die of old age? And you know, we have a good idea in science, health science, not medical science, because medical science sees people that die of disease, and so you get 72 to 80 years, and then you'll die of a disease. But optimal health science says if you live optimally healthy enough, you'll make the maximum lifespan of 105 plus or minus 5, and you'll never die of disease, and you'll die of old age. And dying of old age is a whole other animal, and that's the movie you want. So on the other one, I mentioned that the number one thing Americans need to do, if you're not a crazy person, you're not doing booze, coke, drugs, you got 3 girlfriends and boyfriends, you're psychopathic crazy person, never sleep. If you're not doing that, and you don't have disease, the number one thing you need to do is exercise, and I mentioned that before. But what's the number 2 thing? Carb control. Americans are accelerating the speed that they're marching towards disease by eating excessive carbohydrates. And over 50 years old, 45 to 50, if you're eating excessive carbs, how do you know you are? You're gaining weight. You are causing massive inflammatory reactions in the human body. The science of the last 10 years has shown us that excessive carbs with age will cause significant inflammation. And the number one worst thing to cause people to age as fast as they can and march towards disease as fast as they can is chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation destroys the human body. Ask any doctor who's practiced for a while, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, the inflammatory changes. And most doctors don't even know the biochemistry of it, how it's working. We know how it works. So if you eat excessive carbs, you're causing massive inflammation. So stop pigging out. The healthiest diet in the world, without a doubt, and we'll finish with this. There's all this debate about healthy eating. It's been a settled issue for 20 years. The optimal diet for human beings is a vegetarian diet with maybe a little bit of meat. You can cheat here and there, but it doesn't have to be extreme. We can still eat meat, but you need to eat clean meat. But basically, we should be meat-eating rabbits. Meats, leaner meats, or non-polluted red meat. That's a whole other topic. And mostly fruits and vegetables. Meats, vegetables, and fruit. That's what we should live on. And if you do that, you'll live longer than anyone else over 50. So that's about it for today. I'm Dr. Debunk, debunking medical myths, garbage, and crap spread by doctors and other health professionals. and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.